the World of Ability Podcast Network. My name is Emily Gomer, and a podcast engineer here, and we're excited to bring you another episode of the Aspie Bridge Show with Suzanne Plumley. Uh, and so, I guess I'm going to pass over to Suzanne to what are we talking about today and anything else.
There we go. Well, thank you, Emily. Yes, this is a very important one. We've been talking about housing for the last, for all of April, and some of the different things to be prepared for when you move into your new home. Making sure you don't have clutter, making sure you have the right um, possessions around you that are going to make you feel confident and happy, but not too many possessions. And we also talked about color to set your mood, to set a relaxing vibe so you're not walking in and feeling like you're really stressed when you walk in your house. Now, before all of that comes, we have other things to decide. But let's get going with our usual start here. With all the wonderful Aspies out in the world, or autistic level one, if you prefer that label as well. Explanation. I don't like the word label. Explanation. With all of us who are out there, explaining and helping you. We don't need another woman who will tell you what the traits are for autism. The purpose of the Aspie Bridge is to help you to receive the information so that you can go across the bridge, the outside bridge, of course, new background right now. So you can go across the bridge, re enter into society, and start your life so that you can have a fulfilling life. You're not stuck. And as I say, with Paul McAuliffe in Australia and Sam Stein in the Netherlands, I learned, and Sarah Hendricks in the UK, and Temple Grandin, and other women here in the US who are telling you what all the traits are and how you can combat and find coping mechanisms. The Aspie Bridge is here to give you information on how to go across the bridge in a way that feels most comfortable to you. Now, our topic today is independent living. Are you ready to be an independent liver? Are you ready to go out and to find a home of your own where you can thrive, where you can feel like you can do the things you want to do without having constant watch over what you're doing, by having people tell you what you can and can't do? Are you ready to go out and live on your own where you can? I'm repeating myself here. Are you ready to go into a home on your own, live independently, free of people who might be watching over you and giving you directives, medical directives, or mental health directives to tell you how you should live? Now, in a little while, we may be presented with my guest, Wendy. If not, we all have lives. We can keep going with this. Now, let's start out the guest list, and maybe Wendy will have a different idea of where to start, but let's just go. Are you financially prepared to go into a home on your own? Meaning, do you understand the monthly bill check that you have to go through? Do you understand that in order to find a home, you have different qualifications you need to go through? Such as, are you finding a home that is going to be within your means when you have a job, or are you going to be struggling financially to keep up with that home? Do you have someone who can back you up on the rent should you find that you run into challenges? So, monetarily is your first decision that you need to think about whether or not you can even leave where you're currently living. Because if you're trying to come in and you only have Medicare and a SNAP card, that may not be enough for you to feel confident. We want you to feel confident. We don't want you to struggle. We don't want you to worry because there's no point in adding more stress to your life. But if you're now working in a job and you're getting a regular paycheck, are you ready, as Lynn and I talked about, to put that money aside where it won't be touched? Will you be able to put it into that bucket that's marked for rent or whatever means of providing for yourself to live in that location? Now, secondly, one moment, I'm just going to check and see if our guest is coming in. Nope, not yet. Okay. Secondly, do you need a guarantor? It might be a good idea to have someone who you can go to quickly to borrow money from if you do get into a pinch. Because I can tell you, it's a lot better to borrow from someone that you can rely on than to fall behind in your rent. And that's not fun. Let me tell you, that's not something you want to do because that will set you up for not being as successful as you would like to be. Now, let's say we have that all covered. You have a great system of knowing to put your money into one account that's marked just for rent so you don't touch it. Now, are you going to be bringing an animal into the home? Is that allowed to bring an animal in? Now, many places do allow you to bring in a support animal, and that's great. And I think that that would be a very good option for you if you can bring in a support animal. But once again, some support animals may still require a little bit of money to keep up their care. So if you're not prepared for that additional expense or that additional responsibility in case there is damage done, you may want to think about whether or not you're ready yet. A lot of people don't have a cat or a dog. They might have a small lizard or fish, and that's a different story. They're not going to do quite the same damage as a cat or dog might do should there be issues. Now, the third situation that you want to consider when you're going in are allergies. Do you need to find some kind of a place that is going to have a stronger HEPA filter for allergies that may come up or medical needs that are going to come up? Is the place ready for you if you have additional medical needs that you need to take into consideration? And if you're going into a place that you're allergic to, let's just say mold, is it a location that's up to date? Does it have the proper ventilation? There's no point in going out into the world on your own if you're going to feel stressed and suffer by your surroundings. That's not something that's going to be healthy for you. And I really want to caution that you don't make a big, bold step unless you start to really consider these different options. Now, the fourth thing you want to consider is what kind of transportation are you comfortable with? Do you have a car? Are you driving? If you're not driving yet and you rely on the buses, you're going to need to make sure that there's a safe, well lit bus station where you can get to your job. And you're going to make sure that you're comfortable getting there on time. Because if you can't get to the bus on time and the bus leaves without you and you can't get to work, well, now you're starting a system of breakdown where one one part is dependent on the next part. If you're running late to the bus and the bus leaves and you're expected to be at work at 9 o'clock, well, now you don't have the transportation you were counting on to get you there. Excuse me for one moment. Okay. So thank you. Thank you. I just had to check and see if Wendy was on her way in. And she may be on a different time zone as we are here in Texas. So we're going to give her some grace. Another thing, that brings me up to your next door neighbors. You need to make sure that you can get along with them. You need to make sure that you're bringing your best self. So if they are loud, if they are a little bit more rambunctious, you're not going to have a meltdown because they're noisy at a time when you want to sleep. Because you really want to count on your neighbors. You don't want to make them mad, and you don't want to have a meltdown or burnout if they make you mad. So, what you might want to consider when you find a place that does meet your needs is to go and talk to some of the neighbors. Hey, how are you doing? Do you like where you live? Are you night owls? Are you up early in the morning? You really want to make sure that you are getting to know them before you take that big step into living next to them or across the street from them. Because even as we all know, it's not just next to us. They could be across the street and they could have a motorcycle that you may not be able to handle. So these are some of the different checklists. Let's go over and start and revive from the beginning. You want to make sure that you can afford the place you're moving into or have an emergency support person who can help you out financially. You want to make sure that your animal that you're planning to bring into the new home is allowed. There are some breeds of dogs that are not allowed, and there may be some reptiles that are not allowed. So you want to make sure that they are on the accepted list of animals that you can bring into your new home. You want to make sure that your allergies and your medical needs are going to be taken care of if you're there. If you need some apparatus, such as a wheelchair, let's just say, crutches, that you're not up on the fourth floor with only steps. Because these are all the reasons why you might need someone to live with you. Is if you are in an apartment building on the fourth floor and you need help getting up the stairs with groceries. These are challenges. Now, it might be nice to have a neighbor that's willing to help you, but you can't count on them to be there all the time when you come home from the grocery store. So, how much can you do on your own? And these are the readiness checklist items that you really need to consider. The next thing you need to consider is, are your neighbors noisy such that they are going to make you uncomfortable living near them? Maybe there's an option where you can go with a month by month rental instead of a yearly rental. And what that will do is that will allow you to move out if you find it doesn't work for you all by yourself. Now, the next step, as I said, is transportation. If you're not a driver, if you are a driver, are you able to get access to your car fairly easily in any kind of weather? If it's snowing and you're not into snow, that's not going to get you to your new job on time. If you don't like the rain and you don't have a cover over your car, are you going to have a problem getting into your car to go to work? These are all the things that you really need to think about before you think if you're ready to leave. Because, yes, you can take coping skills. I'll take an umbrella, I'll take a shovel if I'm going to go out to my car, or I'll get to the bus half an hour early to make sure I don't miss it so I can get to work on time. These are all the things you need to think about before you even start to pack a box. Before you even start to pack a box, you need to think about all of these different decisions. The next thing I would like you to do is to say to yourself, you know, I really like walking trails, or I really need this particular kind of exercise. Can you get that kind of exercise where you're moving into? Is there a walking or bike trail? Is there a gym if you need to do physical therapy attached to your building or in the community? Because while that may not be important, if your health depends on having some of these extra items, you're going to want to make sure that that is already in place. Again, before you sign the lease. Because there's no way that you're going to convince the organization where you're moving into to put in a swimming pool if you're used to swimming. It sounds silly, but there are some things that we just can't change. And we have to be okay with those things. So I really encourage you to really do your research, to get into understanding what is needed before you sign a lease. Because once you sign it, they're not going to let you out of the lease very easily, especially if it is a yearly lease. And it could cost you more money if you do have to leave in an emergency situation. So let's take it another step. That is your checklist. I'll go over it again. Finances, animals, health, air filtering for allergies and other medical needs. I forgot one. Meal planning. Are you capable of creating meals for yourself without the help of someone else living with you to prepare them for you? You do need to eat. Are you able to get groceries to that apartment? You need to make sure that you're eating a balanced diet. We know that some of us have a very strong sensitivity to certain foods. You need to make sure you're prepared. Can you get to work on time? Can you get yourself up in the morning to get to the bus stop in plenty of time to get to work? And lastly, are there different amenities there that are going to make it such that you can use those amenities without having to drive somewhere to do it? Because I can tell you, the more often you have to drive somewhere else, the less often you may end up doing that activity. And if you're in a need for physical therapy or some other kind of physical movement and it's not right there, you're going to find it's a lot harder to stay motivated to go and do that activity. Let's switch gears right now. Let's say you have been living on your own. Let's say that you have been on your own for a while and then you get the diagnosis. And you've gotten the diagnosis because you're starting to feel more lethargic than you used to. You're starting to feel like things are bothering you, like the next door neighbor's music is getting louder, even though it's not. But you're starting to feel the music is louder, or you're starting to have a neighbor that moves in that has motorcycles and they weren't there before. And you're finding that there are new challenges that are coming up that you didn't expect, or they were not there when you originally moved into this new home. You may think that it might be time to bring in someone to help you. Let's just say that you've had to increase your hours at work. And now you get home and all you want to do is eat peanut butter and jelly all the time. Well, you might need someone to come in and just share the meal planning so that when you have a long day, they can cook. When they have a long day, you can cook. What if you both have long days? Well, now you might feel a little stuck because you need to come to a compromise. But if you're challenged with a communication issue, now you need to think of a different way to communicate with the new person that's in your home. And this can bring about some different challenges as well. Because if you don't know the person and you put out for a roommate, and you have expectations of how you want to live in a home and they have expectations, and what if you come up head to head? You need to find a way that you can communicate with them so that they understand where your challenges are. If you are bringing someone in that has their own challenges, are you ready to go with their needs? Are you ready to bend every so often? Some of us are more rigid on how we live than others. So you really need to make sure that you are carefully looking at a roommate or carefully looking at a nursemaid. Are they going to move in or are they just going to come for the day? These are some other things you need to consider before you just say, oh, I want a roommate and bring one in, because you need to know what your needs are. You need to have the conversation. And if you have a challenge with communicating, then you need to write down a list of things that you need to do, your non negotiables. I have to turn up the TV so that I can hear the words. I find that I can only eat dinner up until 6 p.m. and then I can't eat after that. You have different things that you need to set down as your rules for living. And your non negotiables are one list. Your ability to be flexible is another list. Okay, I don't mind watching someone else's TV shows at night. I can be more flexible. I don't mind if their animal comes in, if they brought an animal as well, comes into my room. So I would recommend you have two lists, your non negotiables and your I'm more flexible in this category. Those are the things that you really need to think about. So, what I would love to say is that while I don't have my guest who I was hoping for, she will hopefully put out a checklist so that you can even go through it more. But you really think about whether or not you are ready to go out into your own living area without someone living with you. Can you get up and down stairs if you have to? Can you handle the next door neighbors if they are um, providing music that's louder than you can handle? Are you able to get to the bus station on time or the bus stop on time to get to work? These are all the things you need to consider in your checklist. And we'll put it down in the comments section so that you can go over them. But start from thinking about providing financially for you and an animal, providing for your physical health and your mental health, and then go about doing your activity health. Are you able to get to where you need to go? Are you able to get to work when you need to get to work? These are all the different things that I would recommend you consider before you sign on the line. Now, in about 2 weeks, I was hoping he might be available next week, but in 2 weeks, I have a gentleman by the name of Ethan Weldman, And he's going to come and tell you more about the tiny house community and building a tiny house or buying a tiny house. Because, as I said about 2 weeks ago, sometimes I think that this might even be our best solution because now you have someone in the community that can help you without being under your feet. You have someone you can call on. If we're all together in a community, we can help each other. We don't have to have own everything for ourselves. We can share tools, we can share different possessions, and we can share meals by having potluck meals. Maybe you're not up to making a full meal by yourself, but maybe we can put together a potluck meal so that you're not having to provide for yourself every single night of the week. So I welcome you to put in some questions that might come available for Wendy if she is willing to answer those for you. And I want to thank you for coming to this edition of the Aspie Bridge. Next week, we may have a surprise guest, so I want to just leave that open for now. But this month of April is all about deciding where is the best place for you to live. Where is the best place that is going to provide you the most mental health, calming, peaceful area? We had that with Sue. Are our possessions taking over us, or are we in control of our possessions as we did with Jennifer? And in 2 weeks, we're going to have Ethan, who will tell you more about the tiny house idea. Now, a lot of people are like, tiny house, I don't think I could do that. But I don't know if you realize that a tiny house can be as small as 125 square feet, which is like a hug of a house, or it can be as large as 780 square feet on a small parcel of land. So, what you really need to do is think about what amount of home do I really want? Now, what I found interesting the other day is I have a 3 bedroom, 1 bath house. This house is about 800 square feet. It's really more than what I want because I know I'd rather spend time on my special interests than going out and spending time cleaning it. And I definitely don't want more than one bathroom because we all know we're not crazy about cleaning, but we do need one bathroom. So maybe a tiny house is something that you can handle. Now, a tiny house can be wood and lumber, or a tiny house might even be an RV model home that sits right on a piece of land, a manufactured home. But either way, the house that Ethan will tell you about is the wooden version, the studs and everything that you can really get into feeling like you can have your own space. So, at that, I would like to say thank you very much for coming to the Aspie Bridge Show. And next week, we will have another topic all about making sure that you are ready to live independently. So I'm going to sign off for right now, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I will see you next Tuesday. Goodbye.